Bushfire Evacuation Sim.
Who wants it?
You know who wants it? This presentation. Because today we'll be discussing a game that my ISD class has made, Bushfire Evacuation Sim. At the start of the term, we received the prompt of what can be anticipated for the upcoming bushfire season and bushfire emergencies, and from that we created a fair list of different ideas we could make for a game, and then from that it delved down into an evacuation simulator. And that's how we got the title for our game! Bushfire Evacuation Sim, put into simplest terms, is, well, exactly what it says in the box. It's a simulator to help teach the player what exactly to pack in a real-life bushfire emergency, and like many simulators in recent years, it also has a layer of comedy with the main character's pet being a cow named Roast Beef. And Roast Beef has many emotional attachments which will end up affecting what exactly the player decides to pack. The core purpose of this simulator is to help better prepare and educate people on what to do when you have to evacuate. It's meant to make people think about what to prioritise in this sort of situation where normally it would be significantly more stressful. Having a safe environment like this provides players with an opportunity to learn without anxiety of what might happen to your actual house or belongings. Players are able to pick up most objects in their house and then pack those into the car. Objects are either essential, like food or like photos, or non-essential, like the gnome, or the bins. If a player collects enough essential objects before they leave, then they win, but if you were to start packing only non-essential items into your car, then even if you did leave, it'll still count as a loss. Objects are sorted into 3 different point categories for the most part. We have our essentials, which will get you the most ones, our mid-cards, which will give you about a moderate amount of points, and we have our non-essentials, which will start deducting from your total, and then whether you win or lose after you leave will be decided about how many points you have by the end of the game. The fire system is really the main star, as it's effectively the enemy of the game, and the player needs to escape their house before the fire reaches them, and if the fire does reach them, well, then that'll automatically end the game, because the player's lost. They've lost their house. They've lost everything. You're dead. Presently not implemented in the game, but there will be a feature that will allow the player to wield a hose and help put out the fire. This will give the player just a bit more time to pack the car, but this comes at a cost. As the player lives out on a farm, there's only a finite amount of water they have access to from the tank, so it should be used wisely, like where they should use it and when they should use it to allow for optimal use. We used the ESA evacuation list to help us pin down what exactly we had to have in our game and then what would give the player the most points. This will encourage the player to learn what items are essential and should be packed, and then what will benefit them in getting the most points to win the game. As this is the fire evacuation simulator, it's meant to teach the player about the dangers of fire. And even though the game's a bit more about packing your car, it's also important not to waste time as the fire comes and approaches your house. There's also an unimplemented feature where you'd be taught about fire safety from both a First Nations and a Western perspective. One of the game modes we didn't end up implementing was a defend the site game mode. This would put you, as the player, as a firefighter and whose job is to help push back the fire lines. And alongside you would be another firefighter who would be a First Nations person, and they would teach you about traditional methods that they would have used to help prevent bushfires. And of course this game mode would have been made with the help of a First Nations person. And now here's a few clips of a demonstration of our game, as well as kind of how to win and lose, but that's not fully implemented yet, so I'll explain over it. So here's our little opening scene. We can see we've got hands and we've got the instructions over on this side. There, keep my funny joke moving, it's very funny, trust me, very funny. And then here we have the buttons and they work, at least the start one does. And when the player just puts their hand in the start button, we get sent to the screen. We'll screen the game. And a very popular item at the front is the cowboy hat. Everyone seems to go for the cowboy hat, first off. Plus because it's right there and it's a cowboy hat. I mean, everyone loves a good cowboy hat, who am I kidding? And then here's our first example of an item being thrown into the car, and boop, it's gone! And the radio down here, unfortunately we weren't recording on our screen, But that radio does play music, which was made by one of the other kids in the class. I don't make the music, I make the horrible retextures. Horrible is a subjective term. I think they're lovely. So you can see a bit of the yard. Here we can see the fire. It's a particle system that doesn't lag out in the game, which is lovely. We love it when a particle system doesn't lag out in the game. Here's my friend seeing their stuff in game for the first time. Because this is my friend who made the canned cereal. Not the canned cereal, but rather the beef cereal. And I put it on the milk as well. I don't think they knew about that one, but... vegan milk with the beef. That makes sense. And here's another one of my great art projects. Hatsune Miku and roast beef. They're girlfriends. Happy Pride Month. And right out here we get a really good view of the fire, like when it's basically right up close to the house from the window in the kitchen. I think it looks really cool here. Here's a few of them right up. Oh yeah, here's my personal favourite, the Lorax cake. I also think that's wonderful. Can't say anything against Lorax cake, it's perfect. Also here's our roast beef. I fixed her model. I removed the horns off of her. She now has some head defects. Her physics are a little bit funky fresh, but that's okay. You know, roast beef's like she's practically got at this point, so it's acceptable for her to just start breaking the laws of physics. Here she is going in the car, and here's what happens when you put your hand in the car. The game crashes. The Steam VR just can't handle when you put your hand in the car. Here's a few of the choice items you can put in the car. The wheelie bins, which you can just kind of throw in, because, you know, Oliver needs to take their trash with them. Here's the sky, so the sky kind of matches in with the fire. We didn't have that many options for skyboxes, but I think it works well. Here's some of the items in the bedroom. Got, you know, Oliver's phone, Oliver's meds, both essential items you should be taking with you. And they can be put in the car, much like anything else. Here's some fun things you can do. One of the things we like to do is just start stacking the cans. We think it's quite fun. I think you can get to 4 before the physics start just not wanting to work. Normally we try on a flat surface, but this time we decided it would be great if we started to carry them, but 4 doesn't work that well. Outside we have a cricket bat and a ball. We wish the box sliders could work a lot better for these, because it would be really nice if you could like play cricket or stuff, but you can't. It's really hard to throw and hit the ball. You have to have the ball or another object lying down, then you can hit it. Here's one of my personal favourites, Pudgy Gnome. Pudgy Gnome's very perfect. He should always be in the centre of your viewpoint, no matter what. And here's another example of stacking objects, which goes a little bit better. Physics are a little bit quirky, but you know, you can stack stuff on roast beef, you know? You can let the gnome write roast beef, who doesn't want that? Stacking objects is fun when, you know, you're in peril of a fire. But you know, this is just one of those fun things that you can do in a game, just to take your mind off the fact that your house is going to burn. Here's another one of my beautiful art pieces, Roast Beef My Beloved. It's very special. There's all of the dust vacuum. Oh, look, Pudgy Gnome again. Who would have thunk it? Again, Pudgy Gnome. Another one of the objects you can throw into the car. One of the original concepts we had was, on top of the main game, you'd also have an unlockable side game where players would get to experience the events of Jackie French's 2020 book, The Fire Wombat. In my mind, it would have been like a Living Books or Humongous Entertainment CD-ROM from the 90s and early 2000s, where you'd be told the story, but you'd also be able to interact with the environment to see humorous animations. This is another game mode that never made it into the game. It would have you, the player, equipped with a hose, placed in the middle of a bush with your fellow firefighters, and you're helping to keep the fire lines at bay. You'd be able to move combustibles out of the way, like leaves, twigs or plants, but as long as keeping the fire from spreading using your hose, you'd also be able to help animals that enter your area by giving them food or water.